Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. We are delighted you could join us for this webinar. This session is being recorded, and we will send you the recording at the conclusion of the event. I'm Dan Goldberg, Events Manager here at Women's World Banking. Women's World Banking is a global nonprofit devoted to giving more low-income women access to the financial tools and resources they require to build security and prosperity. For more than 35 years, we have worked with financial institutions to show them the benefit of investing in women as customers and as leaders. Today, we are excited to present a sneak peek from our signature Leadership and Diversity for Innovation program, also known as LDIP. This one-year program partners a senior executive with a high-potential women leader, developing their skills to successfully serve low-income women while charting a path for more diverse leadership within their institution. Each team identifies and solves a real-time challenge facing their institution, such as growing the business responsibly, better serving existing clients, reaching new market segments, or creating inclusive workplaces to attract and retain diverse talent. Participants have exclusive access to Women's World Banking's expertise in financial inclusion, women-centered design, and product innovation, as well as business and leadership insights of the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania's world-class faculty. The program begins in May 2018 with a week of in-person training in New York City in September. LDIP is currently accepting applications with a due date of March 30th. The following presentation is just a small part of what LDIP has to offer its participants. I am happy to introduce the presenter for today's webinar, Rachel Field, Director of Leadership and Diversity Programs at Women's World Banking. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you everyone for joining us. I've been teaching leadership programs for a number of years at Women's World Banking, and there's one question that I'm asked often, whether it's by a CEO in a bank or a new leader at a fintech. Program participants want to know, what is the one thing I can do differently right now, quickly, that will make me a better leader? Now, we know that developing yourself as a leader takes time and effort. Yet people do want a shortcut. Well, there are some things you can do right now to build emotional intelligence. While there's much to study and discuss when it comes to emotional intelligence, today we'll talk about what it actually is and give you a couple of ideas you can walk away with this afternoon, tomorrow, wherever you are in the world, to be able to use now and improve your leadership. Emotional intelligence is a hot topic. Many people are talking about it. But what does it really mean? And more importantly, can we improve it? The answer is yes. But before I define emotional intelligence, let's very briefly touch on the science behind it. This starts with the way that our brains are wired. We sense and feel things before we can even name what those feelings are. Now, I promise I'm just going to take you through a little bit of science here. The physical pathway for emotional intelligence starts in the brain at the spinal cord. Your primary senses, everything you hear, that you see, touch, taste, and smell, travel through your brain in the form of electric signals. They enter at the base of the brain, and they have to travel to the front of the brain before you can think rationally about what you're experiencing. On the way, those signals travel through the limbic system, and this is the place where emotions are experienced. So what does this mean? It means that you experience things emotionally before you can think about them rationally. And the rational part of your brain can't stop the emotion felt by your limbic system. But the two areas influence each other and maintain constant communication. So the communication between these two centers of your brain is the source of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence requires effective communication between the rational and the emotional centers of the brain. So now let's define what emotional intelligence is. So here we have a definition. Emotional intelligence is the ability to accurately perceive your own and others' emotions, to understand the signals that emotions send about relationships, and to manage your own and others' emotions. So what we're really talking about here, the core of emotional intelligence, is really just understanding who you are, understanding your impact on other people, understanding their impact on you, and managing your emotions and those relationships. Even more simply put, emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and others, and your ability to use that awareness to manage your behavior and your relationships. Now, I've heard people talk about leaders who rise to the top and don't seem to have much emotional intelligence. And that can happen. But sooner or later, that can catch up because they have hierarchical power, but they may not have true buy-in from their teams, their peers, their coworkers. And when this happens, people are just compliant. You're not going to get the very best out of them. Research does show that a leader's success is more connected to a high level of IQ, but where EQ comes in is making that sustainable over the long term. This really speaks to the critical role emotional intelligence plays in our success. In the previous slide, I referenced IQ. And there are some important distinctions to make between IQ, EQ, and personality. IQ, or intelligence, is a measure of your ability to learn and to problem solve, and it does not change over time. Personality is the style that defines us. Your personality is a result of your preferences, for example, introversion or extroversion. And our preferences are innate. Our personality traits emerge when we're young, and they generally don't change either. So IQ and personality are really quite fixed. But the beauty of EQ is that this is something we can all constantly improve. And that's actually something that we learn from the participants in our leadership programs. Many leaders have told us after they attended our programs, they really shifted their leadership style and specifically have talked about becoming more aware of how they show up and the impact of their leadership or management style on others, on their teams, on their colleagues, on their direct reports. And in fact, emotional intelligence is foundational for so many critical leadership skills. Emotional intelligence is not about the fluffy stuff. It's about how it can make you more effective at core leadership competencies, such as motivating others, effective communication, managing change, which we all know is a constant these days. The time that you spend increasing your emotional intelligence can also positively impact how you manage stress and time. So there's even a benefit for ourselves. So this connection back to so many critical skills is why emotional intelligence really is so very important. So again, the fundamentals of emotional intelligence are understanding and managing yourself and understanding and managing your interactions with others. And this model breaks down to 4 key skills that together make up emotional intelligence. So let's just define some of these terms. So self-awareness is your ability to accurately perceive your own emotions in the moment, as well as your behavioral tendencies across situations and time. And self-management is your ability to manage your reactions to people and events and direct your behavior positively. So it's not just about being aware, it's about how you manage your behavior. Social awareness is the ability to listen and observe, to accurately pick up on emotions in other people. And then finally, relationship management really calls on those other three skills to build and maintain connections with others and to be flexible to adapt to different people. This is about understanding who you are, what are your triggers, how do you manage yourself when you're triggered, and then understanding how do you show up in the world. How aware are you of your impact on other people? And how do you manage relationships with people who have really different styles than you? Well, there are things that we can all do to build each of these skills. So as you can see, there are a number of ways to build the skills. Let's look at just a few of them. So first, how do you raise awareness? One way to do that is to pay attention to how you're feeling. We're often so busy, we don't have the time or make the time to register our emotions and our reactions. Remember the science of emotional intelligence I talked about earlier? We experience things emotionally before we can even think about them rationally. So there's an opportunity here to be curious about why you feel the way you do. Notice what triggers you and find ways to manage that. What I have found works particularly well for me is to count to 10 before reacting. Sometimes even better, wait a day to respond. I also look for opportunities to give myself time to recharge. Even if it's only 10 minutes in my calendar, finding that time to center myself really makes a difference for me as a leader. And so I actually put that time on my calendar every day and really try to hold myself accountable to that. All of these ideas are about being mindful and giving yourself the time and space to do that. I know it's easy to say and it's hard to do, but the dividends do pay off. Now let's look at some practical ideas around managing your interactions with others. As you can see, there are a number of different ways to do this. I'm going to talk about a few that I practice. One of them is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. What's important to them? And why is it important to them? How may they react to information that I'm going to share with them? Another technique is being curious about other people. One of the very first questions I asked my team when I started at Women's World Banking was, what motivates you? What kind of projects really excite you? Now, these may all seem obvious. And you know what? In many respects, they are. So why do we not do these things? Well, at the core of it, it's about mindfulness and intentionality. You can know that you need to be prepared to respond to someone's expectations in a meeting, but what does that actually mean? And what does that look like in your day-to-day life? How do you approach taking what you know and turning that into what you do? Our leadership program bridges that gap between knowing what you need to do and how to do it. And in fact, we provide the tools and techniques for leaders to do this. More importantly, though, we give them the space and the time to practice them. So emotional intelligence is just one component of our leadership curriculum. Other areas of focus include modules such as handling difficult situations, authentic leadership, scenario planning, innovation and women-centered design, just to name a few. And I'd like to share with you the perspective of two of our participants from last year's Leadership and Diversity for Innovation program. This is Essie. She's from Fidelity Bank, Ghana. One of her takeaways was the importance of diverse perspectives to truly and effectively serve women. And this is Anisha. She's from Annapurna Microfinance in India. Initially, Anisha did not see herself as a leader, but as she moved through the program, she gained confidence and was truly able to recognize her own strong leadership qualities. And that's the beauty of our programs. We really believe that anyone can be a leader. It doesn't matter what level you are or how much experience you have or what geography you're working in. You can develop your leadership skills, and we want to help you do that.
Rachel, thank you so much for that fascinating presentation. This was just a small taste of what LDIP has to offer. As a reminder, Women's World Banking is currently accepting applications for the class of 2018 until March 30th. Please go to our website for more information or click the link in the chat window on your screen. We will also follow up shortly with an email that will have links to more information about the program, a recording of the webinar, and the PowerPoint presentation you just saw. This concludes the webinar. For those with questions about the LDIP program, please stay online and submit your questions via the question box on the right of the screen. Thank you all very much. Okay, our first question. Rachel, what are some additional components in the LDIP program?
Sure. So some of the additional components include things like customer-driven innovation, looking at things like leadership and culture. So how do you really lead to the best of your ability within the culture in which you're working? High-stakes decision-making is another area of focus in the program. And of course, we have a strong element around mentoring and sponsorship. As you know, the attendees of the program are an executive and a high-potential woman leader from each organization. And we want to give them the tools, particularly the executive, to really sponsor that woman leader back in their institution.
Okay. And that provides a great segue to our next question. What kind of business initiatives do we work on as part of the program?
Great, thank you for that question. So all of the learning and all of the curriculum is really designed to help participants move a strategic business initiative forward within their institution aimed at serving low-income women. And so some of the past business initiatives from participants include developing new savings and credit products for women, expanding services in hard-to-reach remote areas for women, addressing inactive savings accounts and increasing savings balances, enhancing individual lending products targeting women, offering microinsurance that includes credit and caregiver, and increasing access to savings products for low-income women. So those are the kinds of business initiatives that people bring with them into the program. And this year, I'm particularly excited because we are bringing a very strong focus around women-centered design. It's Women's World Banking's proprietary human-centered design approach, and excited to share tools that participants can take back to their institutions and share with their colleagues to really understand the end user, the women client, and move those business initiatives forward.
Great. And our next question, do you offer the LDIP program to individual institutions?
Oh, great. Thank you for that question. So LDIP is a global program, and we have about 20 to 25 participants per cohort. And we recognize that that's a small number. And so we offer tailored, customized leadership programs for institutions as well. We have a signature Women in Leadership program with a sponsorship element. We design leadership exchanges, and we also have our organizational gender assessment. So we have a number of different programs that we can roll out at the institution level.
Great. Well, we have no more questions. Thank you again, everybody, for participating in the webinar. Have a great day, and you'll receive a follow-up email from us shortly with the recording. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.